We have the wonderful Rev Judith Elia with us today. We are talking about the alchemy of happiness. And thank you for bringing us that formula today.
And thank you, all of you, for the amazing happiness that you all generated here today through the humor, through the creativity, and through your honest sharing. It's really always a blessing to be in the presence of this community that I call my uncensored community. This talk comes out of the study of Hazrat Inayat Khan's lectures from the 1800s. He gave lectures that were put into a book called The Alchemy of Happiness. And for those of you that don't know, the word alchemy comes from the Arabic tradition. That is a word in the Middle East that has a very specific connotation. And so I'm going to bring that to you later on. But Hazrat Inayat Khan was a Sufi master from India who brought this teaching at the turn of the last century. And his grandson, Pirzia, taught a class on it that had an incredible impact on me. And so I've been thinking about it ever since and doing the practices that he taught me ever since, and looking forward to part 2 of the teaching that's going to begin in April. So in my contemplations about happiness, I remembered that the word for the highest reality we can experience in the Sanskrit language is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, truth. Chit, consciousness. Ananda, bliss. So in the ancient Indian tradition, Ananda, bliss or happiness, is divine. And it's an essential quality of the highest reality, Brahman, which we oftentimes call God. And also in that tradition, the Atman, the soul, is defined as happiness itself. The soul is happiness itself. Say that. The soul is happiness itself. So the essence of our true nature is happiness. Happiness is a synonym, because cinnamon really is supposed to make us happy, right? It gives us serotonin. But synonym for soul is happiness. So what is the soul? You know, they say in many traditions that the soul is the eternal self. It's not your personality, it's not your body, it's not anything that can be destroyed. It is that of each of us which is eternal. They say in the East, fire can't burn it, wind can't blow it away. So, not only did God make us to be happy, we might say, but God made us happiness itself. Kind of gives more meaning to that, silly bumper sticker, smile, God loves you. Because you are made to be happy. Actually, you are happy. There is this essence of you that is always available. That is happiness itself. Can never be taken from you, doesn't have to be attained, is beginningless and endless, and is the essence of your divine nature. So if that's the truth, why is it so rare for us to be happy? Well, one reason is that the reasoning mind has so many excuses for us not to tune in to joy. In fact, our confusion around what makes us happy is one of the reasons that we're unhappy. We say things like, it feels so good to feel so bad. You have to suffer in order to sing the blues. And misery loves company, doesn't it? We actually bond in our woundedness. Like the crack addict, who never experiences the same feeling of pleasure that they received from the first hit and recklessly keeps trying to go after that same feeling, wrecking our lives, our obsessions, and our addictions, and our ceaseless pursuit of pleasure that is so fleeting can definitely disconnect us from the self that is happiness itself. In fact, we might say that the American way of life, liberty and always being in pursuit of happiness, can bring us much sorrow, much confusion. Last summer, I was dragged, literally had to be dragged, to a talk by Jeffrey Rosen, CEO of the National Constitution Center. And this was a talk at Chautauqua University where I was a visiting minister. But to my surprise, I was riveted. It was one of the best talks I'd heard all summer. And Jeffrey shared that during COVID, he did a deep dive into what our founders read when they created the Declaration of Independence. And he discovered that the phrase, the pursuit of happiness, came from the moral philosophy of Cicero. And that it was not at all the pursuit of pleasure, but it was the pursuit of virtue. And that the founders actually tried very hard to put into practice the cultivation of their character. And they viewed the pursuit of happiness as a lifelong quest for character improvement, where we use the power of our mind to modulate our emotions so that we can be our best selves, so that we can serve others. Cicero wrote, "The mere search for higher happiness, not even its actual attainment, is a prize beyond all human wealth or honor or physical pleasure. Just the search itself makes us happy. Just the search itself is a prize, kind of like that pearl of great price, that if we possessed it, we would sell everything else because it isn't worth anything." So in modern language, we might say it like this: a purpose-driven life, a life of virtue, a life of stable emotions, working to be free from all the disturbing emotions that we can conjure up, focusing on helping make this world a better place by doing the best we can with the talents and gifts we have, is a process. It's lifelong learning. And it will lead to happiness along the way, and ultimately bliss and enlightenment. Hazrat Inayat Khan, the Sufi master, says, "The one who's really happy is happy everywhere, in a place or a cottage, in riches or poverty, for they have discovered the fountain of happiness, which is situated in their own heart. As long as a person has not found that fountain, nothing will give them real happiness. Happiness can't be bought. It can't be sold. It can't be given away. The soul itself is happiness. It's your inner essence. It's your true nature. It's the most precious thing in life and in death. Say it again. My soul itself is happiness. My soul itself is happiness. So I've shared with you before that when I was a teenager, I had a near-death experience. And studying this and preparing this talk for me made me realize something about that experience long ago. For those of you that don't know, I was in a car crash. I was hit by a drunk driver on a rainy day in the New York State Thruway, and my car just spiraled and flipped over a guardrail and just kept going. And it was back in the day when, teenagers didn't wear seatbelts and it wasn't the law, So I didn't even have a seatbelt on. And I remember feeling like cushioned, though. And I wasn't injured in the way that you would imagine I should have been. But I did leave my body. And I was able to see, I was clinically dead, and I was able to see them trying to get into the car. And I remember thinking, Judy is dead. It wasn't me. I was still alive. And I had the most ecstatic feeling that I have ever known. So for me, I experienced the soul of bliss. I experienced it when I described it to people later in my life as more love than you can possibly imagine, right? So this Sat Chit Ananda, this bliss that wasn't Judy, wasn't the body that was in that car, but that was me, the essence of whom I am, my soul. And then years later, my teachers kept telling me that, you don't have to die to experience that. You can experience that in a body, And I was studying with these people who did appear to have this quality of pure bliss, that even in their energy field, I would feel better. And I had them in my life for a really long time. And so it was kind of interesting that I could be with them. One thing I remember about Mataji is I would have all these questions, all these things that were wrong in my life. And then I would go to the ashram and we would sit in the silence. And I couldn't remember one single question that I had after that. I couldn't remember anything that was wrong with my life. That just the connection to that kind of energy field lifted me up to a place of peace. But one time, I had been with the Venerable Bhante Dharmawara, a Buddhist monk who was born in 1888 in Cambodia and died in 1999 in California. So he lived 111 years and was the model for Yoda. I mean, he was happy, healthy, energetic, had the most incredible vitality for 111 years. So I was with him and in silence a lot and experienced a lot of healing because he was a healer, and was really tired and laid down on my bed. And then, poof, I was out of my body, looking down at my body, experiencing this bliss. And I experienced it for a week, this bliss, And I remember telling my minister about it, Reverend Lassie Rosencrantz, and she said, you're experiencing the awareness of your soul. So it is possible for us to experience the essence of who we are while we're still alive. The sages and mystics refer to the process of waking up to our true nature as alchemical. And Hazrat Inayat Khan says, if the study of religion and mysticism doesn't lead to joy and happiness, it may as well not exist, for it doesn't help anyone fulfill the purpose of life. And Jesus said during his last conversation with his closest friends in the upper room, he said, I don't call you my students anymore. I call you my friends because I haven't kept any secrets from you. I've told you everything I know. And you know what I want? I want the joy that I experience in me to be felt in you. So he was telling them the purpose of everything I've been trying to teach you is so you can experience the imperishable joy that you are. So how do we wake up to the alchemy of happiness? The alchemists say it's like making gold out of mercury. You know, mercury is this kind of thing that just is constantly moving and you can't get it to stop, right? Just like our monkey mind. So the metaphor here is that first, we have to still our mind. We have to learn to focus. We have to learn to meditate and calm all of those myriad of thoughts that don't even belong to us, that we perseverate on, all of the many things that are constantly disrupting us. And oftentimes when people first learn to meditate, that's what happens is, you know, all of these thoughts come to mind, and we have to learn to just witness them, observe them, be okay with whatever comes up. That really is the very first alchemical step, to still the mind. And then once this mercury has been stilled, it transforms into silver. And the silver is melted, which represents letting go of our old concepts, letting go of our habitual states of mind, letting go of our negative unconscious patterns. Do you all know that story that Virginia Satir, the great psychologist, used to tell, and many people have told, about the hole in the sidewalk? No? Nobody? Okay, so she gave this metaphor for our, you know, unconscious patterns and beliefs and habitual states of mind. It's like we keep walking down the same street, you know? You may have had this experience with people who they think a certain way, and there's nothing you can do to get them to think a different way, right? Because they keep walking down that same street. There's a big hole in the sidewalk, and they fall in. And day after day after day, they just walk down that street and fall into that hole. And then one day, you know, they've been practicing meditation for a little bit. They notice the hole, and they almost don't go in, but they still fall in. And then over time, they're able to notice the hole and walk around it. And then over time, they find another road. So that's the alchemical process. It's like we have to learn and be open to another way. And that's represented by this special herb that's, you know, put into the silver, and it's transformed into gold. And the herb that we need to cultivate to turn into the God, goddess, love, happiness, incarnations that we are, is love. You know, in all its forms. Loving our friends, our family members, loving our community, devotional love, love for humanity, love for the living earth, whatever that is, cultivating that love is the medicine that turns the silver into gold. So just to kind of repeat some of the things that were already said in our opening humor, happiness can be cultivated. It can't really be attained because it's already there, but it can be discovered through our calling in life, through our gifts, through following our passion and finding meaning and purpose in our lives. And by living a life of purpose, it actually increases our happiness. Because feeling that we're contributing to the life of others makes a positive impact on us and makes us feel better. It's a known fact now through research that when we pray for others, like, you know, when we come together in those huge Lynn McTaggart groups, you know about those, where she calls them the intention experiment. I just participated in one, and she just brings people together all over the world to focus on a positive intention. And she's been doing this for years and years and years, and she realizes that when she brings people together to focus on a positive intention, it heals them. And she tried to deny that for years, because people would have spontaneous healings of diseases, or even one person could see after being blind for years. And so she just said, okay, all right, I'm going to take this data. And it's unequivocally true that when we come together and focus on a positive intention for others, we also can't help but be healed. Because as they say in the East, as you think, so you become. Strengthening our capacity for love. You know, it's easy, Jesus said, it's easy to love those that love you. You know, not so easy to love those that hate you. Not so easy to love those annoying people, right? So focusing on loving family and friends and those connections, and then extending that out to enemies, you know, loving our enemies, blessing those that curse us, because love heals us and the world. Love heals everything. So as we close, I would like you to repeat some affirmations with me so that you can anchor this in yourself. So they're up on the screen, but I want you to do them in a particular way. I want you to say them one at a time, slowly. And those of you that are online, do this with us. I want you to say them one at a time, slowly, full voice, then soft voice, then a whisper. Because that is the best way for us to get them in beyond the mind. Get them in like a good song where it'll be reverberating. So together, full voice. I am anchored in joy and happiness. Softly, I am anchored in joy and happiness. Now, like a whisper to yourself, I am anchored in joy and happiness. Take a deep breath. Let that go. Number 2, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul, because the soul of me is happiness itself. Softly, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul, because the soul of me is happiness itself. Now softly, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my, because the soul of me is happiness itself. Okay. And now take a deep breath in and out. Together. I am a living soul, and I'm filled with love and happiness. Soft. Happiness is my true nature. Happiness is my true nature. Happiness is my true nature. And simply, the last one, I am happy. I am happy. I'm happy. So take these with you and keep practicing them, and may you connect to that Sat Chit Ananda, that place that is you, that is supreme happiness.